Hi there, my name's Lisa and I have started an organisation called Adventures in Nature, and I work with children and families, inspiring them to get back outside into nature, enjoying the outdoors. So I thought I would start a bit of a video blog to share some of the work that I've been doing. And I thought I would start with the classic activity to do out in nature, which is learning how to create fire. um, so I put together a few resources, and I just thought about the things that I would do with children just to get them interested in it as an activity. So I've got the classic fire still. These are really easy to purchase. You can get them on eBay, Amazon. The best ones to get are called Fire Still, and they're from a Swedish business, and they're very well known and used. I've got some cotton wool. So this is going to create a spark, and this is going to catch the spark and create a fire. So this is known as my tinder. Cotton wool, it's not natural, but it is the easiest one to start with. You can use natural tinders. I think they are quite challenging if you're with children, but you could certainly give them a go. You can collect things like dead thistle heads. They're really good fun. And I've got some silver birch bark. So this is very flammable. You can actually use it as a tinder. If you were to scratch up the inside, then you can use that to catch the spark. Again, quite challenging, but good for people who are a bit more advanced. But this is also very good for just popping onto a flame, and it will really get your fire going, so it's good to play with. And I've got some Vaseline, which is known as a coal extender, just because if you start a fire using some cotton wool, it will burn out very quickly. If you were then trying to build a fire on top of that, it can be quite hard because you don't have a lot of time. You can use something like Vaseline, and that will just extend the life of the fire. So I've just talked a lot, so perhaps what we'll do is just have a look at how that works. So we've got our fire still. I always introduce this to children as actually a lesson in patience. I think especially, the younger they are, it's going to take more time to learn. It's not necessarily about strength, but if you are stronger, you will find it easier. But if they're smaller, then it will take time because they need to get really good at it. So the way you would use this is you hold this piece in your writing hand and the long rod in the other. And I always say to them, so I'm not pointing it straight up or straight down, it's at kind of a 45-degree angle. And then you can scrape that down quite hard and create a good spark. I always suggest to children it's best to do this sat down, and to be careful not to do it over their clothes or too close to someone, because that is actually a very powerful spark. It's over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's got a lot of power. And once they've got the spark, you can then introduce something to try and light. So I always tease out the cotton wool. It's much easier to do if you tease it out. Okay. And I always recommend getting a stick to weigh down the cotton wool, because the accidents are always the cotton wool will go on fire, the wind comes along and blows it onto your clothes. Very easily done. So I always weigh it down with a stick. You can actually see that. There we go. So I weigh it down with a stick, and I suggest they have it at least a hand's distance away from themselves. It's quite common, lots of people kind of want to sit like this, but actually you're not very steady. So to have at least one knee down, you're not going to fall into your fire. And then we're just scraping that down, and there we go, we have a fire. Okay, so that's actually burning down very, very quickly. So this is where the Vaseline comes in handy. So I just tease this out, and then I'm going to dip a bit of it into the Vaseline. It does get a bit sticky. and I can now give that a go, and let's see how much longer that lasts for. So I've got my fire still, there we go. So it's just catching the Vaseline now, and it's still going, and so that will burn for quite a bit longer. Okay, so now we could take something like the silver birch, and we can place that on and see what it does. And that burns very, very well. There we go. So that's just some starting activities. From here I might slowly start to introduce what would make good kindling. That's the wood that we would add on to the tinder pile that would then create the fire. And I might start to get them to go out and collect different kindling to use, talk about whether it's dry, if it snaps, whether it's green, and so forth. But that's it for now. Thanks.